Welcome, everybody, to another episode of MC Fireside Chats. My name is Brian Searl with Insider Perks and Modern Campground. Excited to be back home for the first time in a month in this studio. I've been traveling nonstop, Croatia, France, Louisville for Ojai, and then KOA last week. I saw Cara there. Everybody keeps inviting me to COE next week. I'm dead. I can't do it. So it's going to be a great conference. You guys should have a good time if you're going. Is anybody here going to COE? Matt, you're going. That's right. I saw Robert's post.
Yep.
Said you guys are going. It's a great conference. I just don't have the bandwidth. Like, it's been too crazy for me. So, but yeah, like exciting conference season, all kinds of stuff. So I think we'll start. Let's briefly go around and introduce everybody on the panel. We got Kurtis here, who's a recurring guest, Matt, Cara, who are recurring guests, and we've got Lizzy, our special guest today. And then I have something we're going to talk about AI that relates to the United States government. And then, I want to hear what all you guys think as well. So please, Kurtis, you want to start?
Yep, Kurtis Wilkins with Our Journey. Thanks for having me back, Brian. We run about 50, 60 locations throughout the United States. 43 are branded Our Journey. And then we have our management company called Advanced Outdoor Management.
Were you at Ojai or anything, Kurtis?
Yep, we were there. We had our booth. I was running around wheeling and dealing, Brian.
I didn't catch up with you. I was nonstop.
I know. I actually ran by you a couple times. I waved, but you were deep in conversation.
Yeah, we had the magician at our booth. He was doing all kinds of illusion tricks and stuff. It was crazy. He was drawing people in. It was pretty cool.
Oh.
But you guys had a good show?
Yeah, we had a good show. We met a lot of great people. I always like, we use that event every year to go kind of run into everybody that we work with all year long.
Yeah, that's one of the best uses of it. So, Matt?
Hey, everyone. Hey, Brian. Got to hang out for the first time in person at OHCE there, so that was fun. I guess I wasn't doing enough wheeling and dealing because I was hanging out with Brian. But I'm Matt Whitermore.
You were up at the bar till 2 o'clock in the morning, man. That's where all the wheeling and dealing gets done.
I go to bed at 9 p.m., so I'm still recovering from the week. A couple weeks later now. So yeah, I'm director of market expansion at Unhitched Management and Climb Capital. We own and operate 30 parks across the country, and we're looking to buy more, manage more. So we're growing.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, Matt. Cara?
Yeah, I'm Cara Csizmadia. I'm president of the Canadian Camping and RV Association. I had the pleasure of hanging out in Raleigh at KOA convention last week, but did definitely not stay up till 2 a.m. any of those nights. Thank goodness.
KOA people party less hard than Ojai people do, but we were up till 12, 1 o'clock.
Yeah, congrats. Not for me, but yeah, it was a great event, and it's always, Brian, I can relate to the kind of burnout at the end of November. It's always a hectic few weeks as we kind of travel all over to all the events and convention stuff. So I too am happy to be at home and getting back into routine.
Yeah, for sure. Lizzy?
Yeah, I'm Lizzy. I am the CEO of Tiller XR. We are a virtual tour GPS powered platform that allows campground owners to turn 360 images into interactive virtual tours to increase bookings. I was also at Ojai this year, did not tap into the after hours time. Unfortunately, I had to get on a flight pretty quickly the next day. So next year I'll be there.
Oh, so did I. I did that at KOA. We were up till I think 11 o'clock, and then I boarded my plane at 4. I was with Casey Cochran from Campspot, and I wear these Whoop bands or whatever. Lots of people do that track your fitness. And I have I got a badge that said I was a zombie sleeper after Ojai. I was pretty proud of that. So yeah, I got 25 hours of sleep in 120 hours or something like that. It was pretty crazy.
It's wild.
Yeah. It is what it is. It's what's required. So anyway, so before I go into my thing, then I want to talk about AI. And Lizzy, I want to get to later. You were having a really interesting conversation before the show with Kurtis about how some of your stuff integrates with AI, which I think will be perfect for the show to talk about in a little bit. Is there anything else that you guys have seen that's come across your desk, either attending conferences or in the last month or so since we've been together, that you feel is important for us to talk about? No, everybody's going to be quiet.
Nothing that I think is crazy universal, Brian. Everything that I'm seeing now is more like we've been seeing it for a year, and it's just implementation. I'll shout out the Staylist guys, right? I love software. They I love their implementation of AI and how they're using it. That is a great use case, right, in terms of informing GM and working towards like perfect information, right, for the decision makers.
Are you using Stylus?
No. They're a totally different platform, right? But I see the value in what was created there. We have a very similar tool for our internal fleet as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be a necessity by a lot of these vendors, and Stylus did some good presentations at OHI talking about AI. I think there's going to be a necessity from people like Tiller and from the software companies and from other vendors to really push and embrace AI as fast as humanly possible. Otherwise, they're going to get left behind. Like, you already should be doing this, right? But yeah, you're right. Like, iterative is important. But I think the big leap for me in the last week was, and I want to hear from you too, Matt and Cara and Lizzy, if you have anything to add, was before we talk about this huge thing I'm going to talk about, is Gemini 3.0 came out from Google, which by all accounts, and probably not many people follow all the benchmarks like I do, being a geek with no life. But usually when you see a new model come out, like ChatGPT 5 or 5.1 or Claude 4.5 or whatever else, it will one-up somebody in one of the benchmarks. So like it measures how good you are in science or in math or in running a business or in solving problems or whatever. And so they're usually just one-upping each other in one or two. Google destroyed everyone in every single benchmark, I think, except for the SWE bench coding, and they came in like 1% less than Claude and 0.1% away from ChatGPT 5.1. They figured out a new way to train these models. The thing is night and day if you go play with this. And their new Nano Banana Pro image generator, that's a step up from the one they had before, that's powered by Gemini 3. This thing, and they didn't just beat them by 2%. Like, they doubled sometimes the performance on some of these benchmarks. So whatever they did, they just completely killed ChatGPT. I don't even use that thing anymore every day. Gemini is now my go-to.
So I saw the side by side on that. Is the picture of the woman with the regular Nano Banana and then the Nano Banana Pro, and it's mind blowing.
Well, you should see, like, there's really cool, interesting videos on YouTube that we don't have time to play now, but use cases of where, like, you can take a physics problem and write it on a napkin, and it will actually solve the physics problem on the same napkin in the same handwriting. So it uses the model and the logic behind it to solve the physics problem in math, and then uses Nano Banana to create an image of it. It's crazy. Yeah. So
one of the
Matt,
things.
yeah, anything else? Yeah, go ahead. No, I was going to say anything.
One of the things that about that Gemini, right, their leap is like, it is an incredible model. And what I do have I have actually concerns with, like, is Google already has all of this information and data about us, and we are now, what I worry about is, like, okay, businesses are feeding Google now all of our business and ops information. They have a lot of it already, but there's certain stuff that I would hope is secret, or I don't want to call it secret, but let's call it protected information.
Yeah.
And I'm worried that, like, that's helping them, because, like, every single time you do a Google search, right, your Gemini is popping up. I don't even use Chrome. I use, like, Brave, for example, and that's using that model. And so that's where I differ a little bit in terms of, like, well, I didn't really know if I wanted that piece of information to go into an AI model. It is going to anyway, right? It's inevitable. It's all going to be right there. But I do want to bring that up for business owners. Is like, what we push into those models, remember, that's no longer yours, that's theirs.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a couple different ways to look at that, right? Like, number one is, you're not wrong. The ideal perfect scenario is that you have an IT department that trains your own private LLM based on something that's open source, that you control, that you use offline, that you don't feed to any of these models. But realistically, 95% of businesses out there are not going to have the time or the ability or the staff or the knowledge or the whatever to do any of that stuff. So you do have to be careful with what you feed it. I think primarily I would be more concerned with, like, financial data and things like that, and guest data more than anything else. But, like, any tactic that, like, and don't take this as an insult, Kurtis, but, like, any tactic that Our Journey would deploy, any tactic that Unhitched would deploy, like, somebody can like, AI could figure out that same tactic if it was prompted correctly, right? Like, it's a thing that you had an idea about, but could be duplicated.
Yeah, and Brian, I don't take that as I 100% know it's going to outthink me 5 ways from Sunday.
Well, mine already
Right?
does. It outthinks me. So
Yeah, like, and by 2027, right? Like, it is supposed to be the top 0.001% of every person, right, in every category. And so, like, this thing that we're talking about is inevitable. It's just, making sure that you have to get alignment from a lot of your stakeholders and making sure that they understand, hey, we are turning this information over to the Google, to, um,
Meta,
OpenAI,
ChatGPT, yeah,
Meta.
everybody. Yeah.
We're turning it over, and I always make sure I just disclose that to my stakeholders in all different levels. They all kind of laugh because we go, they probably already have it.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Just making sure.
It's a significant impact, and all these things have to be considered. Like you're talking about putting stuff into the model. Like I posted on LinkedIn yesterday, and this is a month ago. I realized this, but I'm signing releases to appear as guests on other podcast shows. Those old appearance releases that everybody would just sign without a second's thought. Well, now if you read those releases and it says you can create a derivative, well, that usually means that they could just edit your podcast appearance and put you in a different way on YouTube or something like that to promo you. Now it means they can clone your voice and clone your video.
And
you better be careful signing that stuff. So I've had some debates with people on some of the podcast platforms. They're like, well, you can't appear on our show. Okay, fine. I understand that's not what you're going to use it for, but you need to think about that I'm not going to be the only one who's going to ask you this question. And obviously, if you don't want to do that, you should have no problem adding those things to it. But these are concerns that, like, I say so many times on these shows and conferences and in person, like, this stuff is moving so fast, you can't keep up with it. We're just still at the exponential curve of it going up. We're not even straight up yet.
Yeah.
There was an article that came out today. This is not my big thing that I want to talk about. Actually, can you share it, Jessica? It should be open. Like, it's an MSNBC article. It's not a video. She'll see if she can pull it up on the screen in a second. Yeah, that one. There's an MIT study that found that AI can already replace 11.7% of the United States workforce. This is out on CNBC. I think it's up there today. I was reading it this morning. So I ran that through Gemini 3, and I said, if AI never improves at all beyond the current state of where it is today, how many jobs could that replace today? And it said 19 million in America. Is 11.7% of the workforce. And it's not just the possibility of it replacing. This is AI can actually do their jobs and do it cheaper, is what this 11.7% is.
24/7, 365.
24/7, yeah. So this is not stuff we want to happen, but this is stuff that is happening, and we have to have a conversation about it.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Well, and I tell my team all the time, like, I don't see AI is going to replace repetitive tasks. It's, some critical thinking tasks, but it's going to replace a lot of repetitive tasks. And what we should do is take that as an opportunity to increase the experience for the guest. Because if you do not, we already know 11% of tasks, let's just call it tasks, not jobs, let's call it tasks, is going to be automated. Well, that's 11% of time we can now push in a different direction.
Yes.
And let's use it. And that's where, and I know that's such a hard concept for, an organization to embrace, right? That's a hard concept because you're like, well, what do we do? Well, no one knows the answer yet because we want to hear, like, well, what does our guest want 11% more of?
Well, that's the guest experience. You're not wrong, right? Like, we were in a room at Ojai with, I think Mike Harrison was leading the conversation for the Southwest region of people, and Scott Roberts was in there, and there were a few other people who are bigger players in there. And the question came up, like, transient sites are down. What do we do about transients? How do we fill our sites? And then they started a discussion about, like, what they've done to change their sites over the last few years. And Scott was like, well, we put a bunch of shade sales over one of our properties in Texas, and those sites sold out. And another lady was like, well, we put a bunch of paw pens on our site, and those sites sold out. And I raised my hand, and I'm like, you guys are answering your own question. You just need to focus on the guest experience. And if you make yourself different than the other people, and let's be honest, 70 to 80% of this industry has been building parking lots for 60 years. It's not hard to overcome that. Then you can really shine and show up the guest experience and still attract bookings.
And in the guest experience, I also say a lot too, Brian. It doesn't require infrastructure development, right?
No.
Like I look at a product like Lizzy's product, right? That is, Lizzy, you probably call yourself infrastructure, but I would look at it as like it's a tool for right, a use case. And I'm like, that enhances the guest experience because that gives them more information. Or like, and I think about like critical points in the guest experience. Well, when does our guest have the most stress? Showing up to our campground is a very stressful experience on the customer journey. And a tool like Lizzy's giving them, this is what it looks like. They can pre-path their way through, they can think through those concepts. And like, that's where I think our whole industry, those are the problems we should be trying to solve, right? Like making that easier, because that's what, like, if you talk to your, your Gen Alphas and your Gen Zs, right? And you talk to them about like what is scary to them and why they don't camp. But I mean, go talk to those young kids, like driving to a place, that's scary. They're 16, 18 years old, right? But then you start getting to like 24, 25 and you talk to those groups, it's the same thought. That's a scary experience. I'm going to go 200 miles for the first time. I'm brand new married, right? Like
Yeah.
That's it. And I don't know, Cara, you probably talk to way more guests than I do, being the president of Canada's RV Association, but that's what I hear a lot of.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm like, I want to push our team into that. We want to be the best at that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, well, I mean, I would say I probably speak to fewer guests now than I used to as a campground owner. But I do agree that I think those pain points can be pretty easily addressed with not a lot of resource investment, but more so kind of human attention and the ability to interact and things like that. And yeah, freeing up, if I don't have to run my own monthly fiscal reports or reconciliations, and AI is going to do that for me now I have, there's 10 hours a month or whatever it takes to get that done right there, that I can be freed up to do those things more efficiently. I think we have to see this whole kind of shift as an opportunity for us to maintain focus on how human our industry is, like how important the human experience is to the guest experience, and see this as an opportunity to enhance the human experience with all of these kind of new efficient tools.
Yes. So you're talking about, sorry, continue. I thought you were done.
No, it's all good. I was just going to say, if we continue to kind of see it as something we're afraid of and nervous about, it's, we're going to continue, like Brian said, to do the 60 years worth of stuff we've been doing so far, which, for a small section of guests is probably okay, but those expectations are really shifting.
Well, that's what I was. We went to Set in France, and I think I talked about it on the show maybe before. But we went to Set in France, which is France's not even their national campground conference. It's the 7 southern regions of France, in Montpellier, France. There were 20,000 people there. This is for outdoor hospitality owners and operators. There were 20,000 people there and 730 exhibitors. And they had everything there, from Milwaukee tool companies to washers and dryers to air conditioners to like 200 by 200 square foot displays of kitchen tables and chairs and plants and everything that's focused on the guest experience, right? Yeah. And to your point, Cara, like I think that France and some of Europe too is about 10 years ahead of the United States in camping, in guest experience specifically. And I think the reason for that is because we've had the baby boomers, and the baby boomers over the last 60 years, while we've been building parking lots, have not demanded anything more than parking lots. I want a miniature golf course. I want a pool. I want a place to sit outside and take my grandkids to play on the playground. There's been no impetus for pushing the industry forward until now, with the millennials and Hip Camp and Harvest Host, and then the generations that follow them. I don't have any data to back that up, but that's what, yeah.
Well, everybody on this call does.
Yeah, I think a lot of the tools that are available have driven that. Like, I don't think it's the millennials and younger that I think the tools they have at their fingertips is what's pushing them to set those expectations higher. Like, I used this example before. My kids are 18 and 16 and almost, and they don't use Google. They use ChatGPT. They're not interested in bothering with a list of results and all those things. Same with, they can't talk on the phone. If I call my kids, I've failed them as a parent. They have zero phone etiquette. They have no idea how to function on the telephone, but they'll text you all day long. Like those fundamental shifts are driven by tools that have been made available to them. And that's driving the experience expectation demands, in my opinion, completely.
All this is fascinating to me. I think in 5 years, almost nobody makes phone calls. And I say that as somebody who sells an AI phone agent, right? But I still think it's voice. I still think you communicate with voice through an Alexa or some kind of new device that's invented. I just don't think you have to dial a number to talk to people anymore. I think you say, let me talk to Cara, let me talk to Kurtis, let me talk to Matt. And it knows who Matt is because it has access to your contact information, and it knows the context around what time of day it is and when you might be wanting to follow up with Matt because you talked to him last week in a meeting, or it's just going to know.
Yeah.
Cold caller's dream right there.
So, Brian, I go a step further on that. Like, I think about, so one of the things that, I think, Matt, you probably focus on too, is like, we support those who support our guests, right? And that is like a core focus, like a core brand identity for anyone in hospitality. And I always think, Brian, you said you wanted to call me in 5 years, and I'm like, I want you to get a hold of me, right? But there's only one Kurtis. What if I could figure out a way to get my information of like, what does Brian need, and have a way for him to talk to Kurtis on demand, right? Like,
well, that will
hey, I don't know what to do on this situation, right? And an answer comes back, right? That's like, hey, this is how I would proceed. It gives them a plan A, a plan B, a plan C. And like that kind of tooling for like on-site teams, because we hire, we all have front desk folks that vary in qualifications, right? Like, and they might not know the answer to every question, but if they had the ability to ask Kurtis right then and there at the tip of their fingers, or ask anyone on the team, I shouldn't say Kurtis, but like anyone on the team, hey, I got a guest in front of me and I wasn't trained on this particular thing, and getting an answer. And that's how I think the next generation is, and whether it's voice, but being able to get perfect information. And that's what I preach, is perfect information to my frontline folks so that they provide that best customer experience.
I think that happens next year and is already happening. I think the next evolution of it is the person doesn't even need to be there, because the owner will be able to ask their Meta Ray-Ban sunglasses the question. And the database that you've programmed about your campground for your chatbot or your phone agent or something else is going to be available everywhere and connected to all the things.
I still think you're going to have humans.
I agree. Like, I'm not saying no humans. I'm saying that there doesn't need to be someone who's physically checking you in and answering your questions. There should be someone there for the guest experience to walk you to the lodging unit and say, I'm a concierge. I'm here to help you. Here's how you operate the air conditioner. Here's how you do. That hospitality piece should never go away. But the ability
and that's what I'm talking about, is like that particular piece, right? I agree with you. Self check-in, you don't have self check-in. Everybody needs to be looking themselves critically in the eye and going, why don't I have self check-in? But what I'm talking about is like being able to support that frontline person, right? 'Cause they run into weird stuff, like stuff you've never heard of. Like, there's a great example, toy alligator in the toilet. I've never ran into that in my life before, but some little kid dropped the alligator in the toilet. My maintenance team had to go snake it and get it back.
Yeah. So the answer is the AI then understands that that's a problem that it can't solve because it's physically not there until the robots actually get here in 10 years, maybe sooner than that. And then it knows to dispatch your maintenance team, contact them on the phone or through Alexa, and sends them right to the cabin, right?
Exactly.
And the guest just has to walk into their speaker or their headset in their cabin and be like, hey, there's an alligator, toy alligator. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I really have to go to the bathroom, come fast.
Perfect. But that's what I'm talking about, is like, and making sure, because like I know what somebody in my front desk might say like, whoa, I've never ran into that problem before. They might try to get a hold of their GM, and I'm like, no. We can it's
all that without the GM.
It's an intense moment with the customer, right? That's and the alligator thing's not an intense moment, but they do come up. And that's where I'm like giving them a way to be like, I don't know what to do, but I could probably go get this information really quick and come back with a very sophisticated answer to deliver a great customer experience, even though this thing happened, right? This event. We talk in hyperbole a lot because it's like, what does the guest run into? And I'm like, I don't know. Every day I hear something new.
One day I just want to run a sarcasm first campground where I can say, yes, we place those in random toilets. You win a free night if you found one. Just get it out of there. Bring it to me. Then you get a free night.
You're the winner.
I just want to be sarcastic with people and see. Like, I think there's an audience for that, like the soup Nazi in Seinfeld. I think there's people who would come.
What capacity does AI have for processing sarcasm?
I don't know. That's a good question. Probably pretty good. Like, I think eventually the voice is going to be able to actually, well, it can. There are models that can actually hear the emotion in your voice already. So I think it will be interesting.
Well, you might set yourself apart if you're the sarcasm campground and all the other.
That's what I'm saying. Like it just takes a little bit of creativity for the guest experience that you're building. Is the sarcasm campground? I saw a picture of a lodge in, I think, Georgia somewhere that's shaped like a camera, and the bed is in the lens of the camera, like that sells for $375 a night and is occupied 70% of the year. It just takes a little bit of creativity. And it doesn't mean $1 million water park. It could be organic soap in the bathroom or warm cookies at check-in, but it has to be, what is your niche? What are the people looking for? And if you have just been focusing on, as many of our clients are, call us from marketing, what type of guests are you looking for? RVers. What do you mean? Like what? All of them? Like you're not for everybody, right? So if you figure that out, then you can really niche down and focus on the guest experience and make yourself special. Or if you don't have a niche, create one for yourself.
Yeah.
There's already a couple of restaurants who do the sarcasm restaurant. People go eat there and get insulted. All the entire experience is to get insulted and eat some good food.
I don't know if I want to be insulted. That's not my jam. But like the sarcasm would be interesting. Like just a little bit of humor till they're like, how everybody gets offended about everything. Like just don't get offended at my campground because we're gonna do some fun stuff. That's all I mean. Not insulting people.
Oh, too far with the insults.
Yeah, you were gonna say something.
Yeah, I had a really eye-opening conversation with an operator down in the Texas Hill Country, and it's got my wheels spinning, and it's nothing earth-shattering, but he's very tech forward. He's using AI. He's in a market where, right, the narrative is that it's a saturated, overbuilt market with supply issues.
Yeah.
He's operating a transient park, very high end, resort, and he's crushing it. And he's got the whole decks, seemingly stacked against him. And that was just right. I think all that stuff in the narrative out there about transient business being tough and demand being, tough is all true, but it showed a path to overcoming it. And he's utilizing a lot of AI in marketing and in revenue management strategies. And again, nothing really earth-shattering.
But is it just that, or does he? What's different about his guest experience? I bet you something's different.
And I just met him for the first time, so I'm not intimately familiar with his operation. But what I gathered is that he is using AI to essentially multiply himself on the back office and on the back end, which frees him up to be a human on the front end. I'm sure he's leveraging technology and AI to assist in that front too. But he's got all 5-star reviews, not a single 4-star review. His revenue numbers on transient sites are insane, and he works for those 5-star reviews, and he's really just one person. He's a team of one in a lot of ways, but his output is impressive, and I think a lot of that is attributed to AI in marketing, AI in revenue management, delivering the right product to the right customer at the right time for the right price, always, every single day, which is, might sound simple, but it's exhausting and tiring and complex, and it's just impressive. And then when I think about, right, our company Unhitched, we're growing, we're a lean team, and we talked at the top of the episode about AI as a job replacement. Where I'm seeing it personally is really earlier in the process. It's slowing job growth in a lot of ways. Like, we're at a point where, I'm working on acquisitions, I'm selling management services. I've got Brandon Darley, who's, my counterpart, our director of investments. I bring the deals and he tells me how much they suck and to go back and go find another one. And, we're at the point where it's like, we might need an analyst. But then we start cooking on how can we use AI? And it's not that we don't want an analyst. Like, that would be cool to have somebody else on the team too. But it's just an interesting kind of inflection point of, do we hire an analyst, a junior analyst, like right out of school or something? Or do we just put a few weeks into developing some screening tools and some scoring tools and some research tools, which would essentially do everything that analyst would be doing, which maybe says something about how we would utilize an analyst. I don't know, but it's just an interesting inflection point on the marketing side too. It's like, we've talked about, do we hire a marketing coordinator, or do we just put some brain damage into implementing a few AI tools?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Like, I mean, that's where it's hitting. There's all kinds of data points about entry-level jobs and college graduates being, I think it was, the number I read was 25% of college graduates are now unemployed or can't get a job right out of school. So that's where it's hitting first. And then it's hitting in the no job growth to the second point. And then you're going to see the layoffs start to come in 2026. But I mean, to your point, like, even if you have a job or a role for an analyst that they could do, an analyst using AI is going to sit around for 7 hours of their day, because all the work you have to do with them using AI, even if they did a great job, would probably fill an hour or 2 hours of their day until you grow bigger, right? As you grow bigger, then you have more capacity for that person to do something.
We're going to have to see a bit of a shift, though, and I'll speak anecdotally, I guess, but I just had this argument with my kid's teacher, going back to my teenagers, who...
Wait, am I the teacher or are you the teacher? I just want to know what side I'm on.
I don't know which side you're on.
Okay.
My kid got into trouble for using ChatGPT as a tool with a math problem. And I'm challenged by this. I mean, obviously on one hand, as a parent, I'm like, do your work and, put in the effort. But on the other hand, I'm also, we're on the verge of this massive shift to a society where he's going to have to have the inherent skill to effectively prompt AI. And he's going to need to learn how to do that really well for almost any job he gets in the world by the time he's there. Even 5 years from now, when he's transitioning into the workforce, not even 3 or 4 years from now, potentially, he's going to need to have those skills. So completely blocking them from utilizing these tools that are available at this age concerns me. I think we need to start to see these tools as valuable, necessary tools that aren't going away in order to help these kids get to a place where, yeah, you can hire an analyst, but that analyst has to know exactly how to prompt AI in the most effective and efficient way to give you the best possible outcomes. And they're not going to have those tools at their fingertips if their teachers are failing them for using the tools and blocking them out I think on the school property, somehow they've got all the LLM sites blocked, and you can't even access them if you're using the school Wi-Fi and things like that, which fair, but closing the world down for them like that, I think is going to create a weird dynamic for us here coming soon.
Well, there's two things. There's change, which nobody except me, I have a disease apparently, likes. And and the government that gets in the way. So the government is the school system, the government is the hospitals, the government typically slows things down. I'm going to use this briefly as a transition point because I want to talk about this real quick. I want to make sure we have enough time. So Jessica, I want you to share this first video that we were talking about. Yeah, the first mission one. This was announced yesterday. For those of you guys who, like, I know we all have a love-hate relationship with Mr. Donald Trump, but this is big.
In every age, humanity invents new ways to see further. The telescope let us glimpse the stars. The microscope revealed the worlds within us. For centuries, thinkers like Leibniz, Shannon, and Turing dreamed of making all knowledge computable. But today, knowledge grows faster than our ability to understand it. Trillions of data points, a universe of information still unconnected. Now, a new instrument emerges, one capable not only of observing the universe, but of understanding it. Genesis mission will transform how science is done in America, uniting our brightest minds, most powerful computers, and vast scientific data into one living system for discovery. Built on artificial intelligence and quantum computing, it will radically redefine the scale, speed, and purpose of scientific progress in America. This is the work that will define our generation's legacy. A new revolution begins, one guided not by competition alone, but by curiosity, imagination, and the belief that discovery is the truest form of progress.
All right, so I want to give you guys a little clarity on this. There's another video I want to briefly show.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hey, good afternoon.
Not that one. Whoever Secretary Doug Burgum is talking about, but hold on, share another one. But just clarity of what this is. This is an executive order signed by Trump yesterday. They're comparing this to the Manhattan Project, and it's just as big. This is why I'm focusing on this. Let's just play it from right there. It's queued up.
Wow. Just wow. What an incredible story coming out of the White House. Again, the title here, U.S. government launches Genesis mission, transforming science through AI computing. This is Trump's executive order to use massive federal scientific data sets to train powerful AI models. Department of Energy will connect U.S. supercomputers and lab data into one unified platform, intended to shrink the research timeline from years to days through AI-driven experimentation, focusing on biotech, fusion, quantum. It's a big deal. AWG, want to kick us off?
Yeah, I've compared this moment to 1939, and this is the Manhattan Project. And in the Manhattan Project, as I've remarked previously, we turned the country into one big factory for nuclear weapons in the case of the Manhattan Project. In this case, the country is being turned into one big AI factory. And this is an incredibly ambitious, we speak of moonshots. This is an incredibly ambitious moonshot, not just to turn the country into an AI compute factory, but also to supply some of the limiting reagents, as it were, like data sets, federal data sets that are locked up in a variety of different enclaves are now, according to the XO, going to be unlocked and made available for pre-training, probably software tools that right now are unavailable, being made available. And I think to the extent that there may be a race dynamic with China, whose government is also collecting large amounts of data, I think the Manhattan Project positioning is probably pretty intentional. And I think it's just glorious to see the sort of ambitious unlocking of scarce resources. I'll also point out Dario Gil, who's been named as the mission director for Genesis mission. I worked with him as an undergrad at MIT, and it's really great to see MIT in general and that level of scientific influence positioning in, again, a 1939 moment, such an ambitious initiative.
Yeah, I should just mention, by the way, our other mate.
But the rest of the video, Peter Diamandis does a pretty good AI podcast that he releases, I think, once or twice a week with those guys. Really smart people. He's known Elon for years and all that kind of stuff. But if you want to watch the rest of it, he's there. But this is what was signed yesterday. Like, they're basically taking the whole United States economy and trying to push it towards AI and data centers and unlocking, the weather data and scientific data at all these agencies at the FCC and FDA. And everywhere else, USDA, everything else. So this is, if you don't think, like, if you still think AI is a bubble and you think AI is a fad, like, I don't know what it's going to take to prove to you that like $1.4 trillion is being spent on data centers by companies that report every quarter. Like, I don't know what else it's going to take, but maybe this is it. What do you guys think of this?
Really fascinating. I'm gonna have to watch that, because what I've been and I'm a novice at best. You know, I have a lot of catching up to do, but alluding back to my analyst comment and using it for acquisitions, research, and stuff, really interesting. Something I've been trying to implement, and you know, I've been trying to keep it simple, right? I feel like you jump on Claude or Chat GPT or Gemini and you look for a solution, and something at least I struggle with is that it just jumps to the most complex side of things a lot of times, and it depends on your prompting. But something I've always just been trying to remind myself is like, keep it simple, implement a very simple V1 of whatever you're trying to do, and then iterate from there. And what I was doing was trying to plug into census data and Bureau of Labor Statistics data for a pretty simple like location grading and scoring tool. So hey, we got a new campground for sale, plug in the address, and let's do a very simple kind of scoring process. So interesting in that, you know, seems to be somewhat along the lines of what they're talking about. So I'll have to dive into that.
Yeah, I mean, they've got tens of thousands of different data sets that they're going to make available, but that's just one piece of it, right? They're going to unlock the ability for like the whole economy to function. The whole economy in 1939, starting with the Manhattan Project in those years, was completely focused on building a nuclear weapon. And that's what we already were pushing that way with some of the executive orders that Trump's doing, but this is the next level. This is serious push from the entire federal government to go all in on AI. And we can't stop. Like, I had somebody, I shared this article with somebody this morning, and the response is like, okay, is this basically mutually assured destruction between the United States and China? And it's not. It's not mutually assured destruction. And this is probably even scarier than that. But this is basically like whoever gets the super intelligence first will turn off the other country. Because if you're China and you win and you get super intelligence, are you going to sit around and wait for two gods to be created? No, of course not. Why would you? You want the only God. Like, it's going to be a God, and they'll be able to say, turn off the United States. That sounds really scary, but that's the race that the United States and China are in right now. And Google and OpenAI. And if it's Google that solves it first, you wait and see the United States government tries to nationalize Google. They for sure will.
Mm-hmm.
So
is this Genesis mission, and are we following something that was also on the forefront of China's efforts and kind of releasing this information, or is this us kind of leading that?
I don't
the efforts
know.
around there.
I don't know. I know that China, I think, because of the nature of China's government that's less closed off and they force everybody to share data and all that, I think China has been doing this probably for a while, but I can't speak to that as an expert level.
Yeah.
But normally government, to Cara's point, like with teachers, right? Government gets in the way. This time government's getting out of the way, and not only just getting out of the way, they're joining forces with all the companies to say like, we are in it with you. Let's go.
Yeah, I see it like, so I look at this as we've done, in the United States, we've done this several times throughout history, right? We talk about the Manhattan Project because that's the most well-known, but also NASA with the race to the moon. A very probably not well-known one is rice, right? And protein and rice. And my alma mater, Washington State, that was like one of their big things. But the government came in and said, we're actually going to develop rice with higher protein levels because it grows better in places like India and China. And I look at like there's verticals of research and development that can be accelerated with this kind of funding. I think time is going, I don't know. I don't know where I sit on side of this issue. It's kind of new, and I don't even know if I'm ready to talk about like, well, do I think it's good or bad? I don't know if that's where we should be on this. I do think that regardless of the government involvement, I think we were headed towards this kind of investment.
Yes, we were. Yeah.
And that's where, to kind of bring it back to the campgrounds and like what it doesn't matter what industry you're in, like this thing's coming. And so I think it's going to come faster. I'm still a believer in the 2027 number, right? Sometime September, August, right? The math says that's when we hit the exponential curve. And so even, as we kind of approach that, we just need to be embracing it as a tool, and we need to be finding ways to use the tool. And Cara, the thing I would bring up is graphing calculators with that teacher. The thing, all that was coming to my head was graphing calculators. In 1990s, graphing calculators weren't allowed. You know what? When I went to school, we all had graphing calculators. Now they all have tablets.
Yep.
It's just another tool. They just haven't figured out how to put it in their curriculum.
Well,
The
I mean,
interesting
that
thing
was
is
her
by the
argument
time-
back, though, was that he should be using his graphing calculator. And I said that to her. I said, when I was in school, we weren't allowed to use a graphing calculator. Good thing we finally got those tools. Yeah.
Sorry, Brian. I didn't want to derail.
I was letting Cara talk because she had something more important to say than me always. But I was just going to say, like, I mean, that's inherently the problem with government and change, is that, like, you already are seeing, and this is for sure going to cause controversy among some people when I say this and it comes out of my mouth, but you are already seeing school be almost, for many professions, completely useless. What they're teaching in school, like if you're a doctor or you're hands-on or you're an emotional, like you're training to be a therapist, there's value in all that stuff, right? There's value in the human connection in the early grades when you go and you learn how to socialize and communicate with others and all that. But the stuff that they're teaching now is not going to be anything that child is going to use in their career at all. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's not going to be that, because they're not going to do the math. They're going to be able to query the history. They're going to be able to be taught in so many different ways instantly. You're going to be able to put on a Meta VR headset and go to ancient Egypt and walk around and feel and smell and touch. And that's going to be your field trip. You'll be able to take field trips all over the world in school. I don't know how we catch up to all this stuff, but I know a lot of it's got to change, because we got to prepare our kids for a different future.
I look at like a classical education, right? Like and it's not, you're teaching critical thinking, right? In a classical education, and that's what you talk about. And that's what I'm saying. Like I think that's where it evolves. It's like you're teaching first principles. You're teaching critical thinking processes. Less, does anyone need to know Pythagorean's theorem? Probably not.
No.
But should they know how to multiply, divide, subtract, add? Yes. And then
and should they want to become a mathematician one day, they should be able to teach themselves how to learn Pythagorean's theorem.
Exactly.
That's the difference. This is full circle. Like if you study ancient Roman history, like Rome had two different types of schools for slaves, where they taught you skills, and schools for free people, where they taught you how to teach yourself to learn, in the hope that one day, they had no idea what was going to happen to society or how you would be useful. You would teach yourself to be a blacksmith or a bread maker, and you would contribute to society. But they didn't teach you how to make bread. They taught you how to teach yourself to make bread.
Yeah.
And we're coming full circle to that.
Like Rome.
We're what?
I said, let's hope we don't end up like Rome.
Well, yeah, that's a whole nother conversation for a different topic about, we've already opened up enough can of worms on this show. Lizzy, talk to us about Tiller and the interesting stuff you were talking about AI and with Kurtis earlier, because that was interesting to me.
Yeah, I think the conversation that we were having is kind of how we are leveraging AI in the near future. And then, what does that look like for, 12 months out for us? And I think with the way that we're creating virtual tours, a lot of these tours have contextual information inside of them to create more engagement, so that when someone is looking at a virtual tour, they're able to kind of take a look around, get site information. You have to kind of plug in all of that, either through an API, if you've been able to categorize that information through, a new book or a rubber pass or something like that, we can pull that in. But imagine if we could just speed up that process with prompting AI. Hey, here's my images. The virtual tour has been built. I need this virtual tour for a campground, and allow someone to build a virtual tour through some conversational AI that then pulls in all of that kind of data and automatically scans, analyzes an image, and determines what contextual information should be put there, rather than relying on a campground owner or a marketing professional to have to kind of look at each image and build that manually today. So there's one kind of effort that we're looking at.
Yeah, the data is super critical, right? And
Yeah.
and Kurtis, I want you to touch on that because you were saying some interesting things back to her too. But like the data of the virtual tours, the information that we have that we don't even realize as information, like the photos of the campground, but also like Simon Neal is at he runs a great company called Camp Map out of Croatia. They don't do virtual tours, but they do the mapping and the data that he has through his APIs that he can also feed to AI to ask questions to get like how far is this to the bathroom, or what's the shortest way here, or and it could separate all the layers. Like the more things you look at as data that you can supplement into the AI systems to allow the guests to discover you and end up choosing you is the win.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that data structuring element, whether that's like the site specific URLs or, image detection or object detection or auto tagging images to understand what is a cabin versus what is a site versus, what is a tent, right? Those are all of the type of structured data elements that we're hoping to leverage AI with and some image analysis with. We can have that structured data.
What do you think, Kurt?
So I love all of the data points. Like the things that I would love for exposure is like APIs to like, I want to rent, I want to rent an RV pad, right? And that'll probably be the thing everybody says to their AI agent, and then they refine that search over time, and being able to do like that virtual tour, having an endpoint into these engines, these AIs, right, and being able to display that information. I think that is incredibly useful to the consumer. I think like anybody anywhere says, hey, I want to go there, probably wants to see a picture of it first.
Well, here's the interesting thing too. Like you're going to get to a point, you already are here, but most consumers aren't aware of it, where the AI is going to watch the virtual tour for them, or the AI is going to watch the video of the property for them. You can do this in Gemini 3, which is one of the most interesting use cases that nobody's played with it. You can feed it an hour-long YouTube video, and you can say, pull out the most interesting clip you think I should use for social media from this that's the most engaging or controversial or whatever. It won't just pull the transcript. It'll watch the video, and it will tell you the frame it starts and the frame it ends and what it should do. And it's mind-blowing what Gemini 3 can do. So, but to that point, right, then it's going to have to, the more data you have, the more ways you can present your campground through a digital map like Simon has, or through a virtual tour like Lizzy has, or through data from NewBook or CampSpot or any of the other reservation systems. The more data you can pull in, the more ways you have to convince that AI agent that it's the right, perfect tool. And people are just going to trust that. Like I know my agent knows it's the best campground for me because I know for sure that it browsed not one page of the website, it browsed every page and looked at every photo and every virtual tour and every 360 video and everything. And it knows that it's the perfect one for me. And it's never going to be wrong ever, because it will read the reviews and read all the things and read all the, like we're a couple years away from that, but it's getting there.
I also will say this, Brian, it might even say it's not the best for me, but the best connection doesn't match my dates. It's third, right? But this one was available, but you could change your dates for the one that I think is the best match, right? Because like consumers shop so many different ways in the RV. Do you start with dates or do they start with unit? That's the biggest debate I've ever heard in operations ever.
Well, and it will know that. It will be connected to your email and your calendar. It will know what job you have. It will know when your kids can get off school. It will know when you can get off work. It'll know how many vacation days you have. And it'll just be like, hey, you asked me for these dates, but you're going camping now. And you'll be like, and how many people are going to be like, no, I think you're wrong, AI. I think I want to go the other. It's not going to happen.
I hope most people would take control of their life and say, challenge the AI and make sure that that is internal fulfillment. I hope for humanity that's what happens.
It's not going to happen.
I also agree with that as a realist. There will be a segment that doesn't challenge the process.
It will, it'll be a 70% segment. It just is what it is, and that's fine. Like you need to think of different ways to challenge yourself and to think, and not to be like, you will be lazy, but like take that laziness and put it to practice other places. Just like more time you have for guest experience, right? Like you don't need to just sit on the couch all day. Like you need to have a different purpose in life, and or a purpose in your job, or a purpose with things to do, and you will have that. That will unlock that for you, but you still need to use your mind. So it'll be interesting to see where people put those minds to use. I think there will be a lot of good things that are done as a result of it. So,
Brian, were you just quoting Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
probably not. I have no idea what that is. I don't even know what that
Pyramid.
is. Maybe I wrote it in a former life.
You might have. I'm just envisioning the pyramid.
Oh yeah, he talks about thinking and like fulfillment, and we like the top of the square, right? Is top of the pyramid is fulfillment. And that's what I'm hoping most people get into that, and that's the piece where we should be challenging it and making sure.
Yeah, we have to be fulfilled. Like, I mean, that the answer to like, who are you is like, I'm a director at Unhitched Climb Capital. I'm a CEO of Insider Perks. I'm the president of the Canadian Camping. I do virtual tours. That's people's identity. That's not going to be your identity in 10 years.
No.
You need to, like, I'm a musician. I'm a poet. I'm a father. I'm a whatever, right? That's your identity, because you can then get home and spend more time with your kids. You can have a purpose that's outside of work.
Yeah.
Most people can't imagine that because they've never been alive for a period where that's happened. But it
How
used
long
to
do
be
you
that
think
way.
that period will be? Like, so once we start to have this, people start to realize I have to find an identity that is not, the director of Unhitched or, a virtual tour software builder. How long do you think people sit in this space of uncertainty and just trying to figure out what that fulfillment looks like? And then how do they leverage resources or tools to be able to kind of help steer them into trying these opportunities to have fulfillment?
I think it all depends on what the government does as a society,
Yeah.
honestly. Because like, this is a problem that I can't solve, that Kurt can't solve, that Matt can't solve, that Lizzy can't solve, that Cara can't solve. We can't even solve it as a group of 5 people or 50 people or 500 people. The government has to solve this somehow. They have to take care of the people and figure out a way to do it. Like, and the math doesn't add up the way it works now. The United States government takes in, I think, $5.5 trillion in taxes or something like that every year. $1 trillion is from corporations, $4 trillion is from income taxes. Setting aside the fact that if people start losing their jobs, income taxes are in danger. But we apparently don't care about the debt, so that's fine. But setting that aside, like, if you gave everybody in the United States today poverty level universal basic income for $16,000 a year, that's $5.4 trillion a year.
Yeah.
It already doesn't work. So somehow, some way, there's got to be a conversation. And I think that the people get to a point where they have a different purpose if they don't have to frantically think about, I need a second job, or where's my food going to come from for my kid, or that kind of stuff, right? So it depends on how the government handles it, I think.
Agreed.
And I hope they handle it well, but I'm not holding my breath, because nobody's talking about it except Bernie Sanders, which is not my favorite politician.
Well, I think that jobs change. We talk about uniquely human experiences, and like, I don't want to believe in that seems like a dystopian future, Brian. It's scary.
It is temporarily.
It's temporarily. But I look at like, well, what we talked about just on this, like just the show today, and I go, well, me saying hello to Brian when he shows up to whatever that is becomes so much more meaningful, because we get pulled away from all of the things. Like, if we have less actual work to do, we focus on that connection between people, I think, more, right? Just, if we all didn't work, everybody on this call would probably be so much more involved in their community, because there's a bunch of doers, right, on this podcast right now. Everybody would be involved in that community. We're doing a food drive, we're doing this, we're doing that. You know what I mean? And like, I look at it that way, and I'm like, I actually see this more as like those particular efforts become more valued.
They do, for sure. Like,
and that's might be that's the next evolution. That's where
we've got to get through the transition period where if you go help the old lady bring her groceries home, you're not making the same amount of money you would at your job. So how do you still pay for your own groceries? That's the thing we have to get through to get to the utopia on the other side. Like, there will be jobs created. There will be jobs for the next 50 or 100 or 200 years. The problem is those jobs are not going to be anywhere close to enough to give people gainful employment. One person with an AI will do the job of 50 people. And those 50 people no longer need to be, to Matt's point, the analysts. You don't need 50 analysts. You need one analyst with an AI.
Well, and what does that do to average income and, salary levels and, then the economy and kind of buying power in general? Like there's a whole, we're at time and we're
at time as always. But all right, final thoughts, Lizzy, anything?
Now I'm just thankful that you guys allowed me to come on as a special guest. Very interesting topics and conversation, and I'm happy to come back anytime. So it was a pleasure to meet everybody.
Where can they find out more about Tiller?
www.tillerxr.com is where you can find out more about Tiller. You can also reach me at lizzy@tillerxr.com as well. If you have any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer those directly.
Awesome. Thank you for being here, Lizzy. Kurt?
Kurtis Wilkins, thanks for having me on, Brian. You can reach me at ourjourney.com or at advancedoutdoormanagement.com. And love to have a conversation with anybody about AI tools or camping experience. Let me know.
Thanks, Kurt. Matt?
Just getting off mute there. Matt Whitermore, unhitched, mgmt.com. You can find me on LinkedIn as well, Twitter. Pretty active on there. Yeah, welcome any conversations. These are always thought-provoking. I appreciate it, Brian. I feel like we finished on a down note there with some major job losses and all that. So I'm going to be
a temporary down note, man.
Pondering how to counteract that for my future life as I digest some turkey here.
Yes, be thankful. Right before Thanksgiving, we're given. Yeah, Cara, final thoughts?
Yeah, I will say I think humans are incredibly resilient. So, regardless of the negativity, I think there's a way forward. Maybe we can't see it yet, but we'll figure it out. Regarding reaching me, you can email me at cara@campincanada.ca or visit our site to learn more about the association, CCRVA.ca. And yeah, always happy to jump on. It's like deja vu to be back. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, it's always a struggle and a balance with me. Like I really am not negative for those of you who talk to me, right? I'm just a realist, as you are, Kurt, right? And I feel like if we don't have these conversations, we're not going to be prepared for them. So
I consider myself an eternal optimist, but I appreciate the realist perspective and understand it.
I'm an optimist too. I think on the other side of this, everything's abundant. You can have anything you want. It's all cheap because intelligence and energy is basically zero.
How do you get there?
How to get there? And like Cara said, like there is a path there.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there will be jobs forever. Like there will be jobs that we want that people will do from a human perspective. And then as we expand to Mars and build space stations in orbit, and there's going to be more of those jobs that are created for more of those people. So good things are happy. Good things will be there. There are good paths for all this stuff. We just have to figure it out together. And the only way to do that is have a conversation. So thank you guys for joining us for another episode of MC Fireside Chats. Appreciate you, Cara, Matt, Kurtis, and Lizzy. And we will see you next week on another episode. Take care, guys.
Thanks, guys. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.